Hello everybody, my name is Mihir Patel. I'm a chemical engineer. By the grace of God, I had the good fortune to write a handbook on chemical engineering called Mihir's Handbook of Chemical Process Engineering. We will be discussing chapter 29 in this book, which is on process design documentation. Now for a process engineer, it is very important that he understands what are the design deliverables that he has to make in any particular project. Again, depending on project to project, the deliverables will vary. Like a field documentation is different than a detail engineering documentation. Maybe in some projects the licensor may give the basic package, so you don't have to do simulation. However, nevertheless, we will run through the whole gamut of the process design documentation, and the process engineer then has to decide in which particular project which document is applicable. Now, in any greenfield project, the first document that is produced by a process engineer is the process design basis. Process design basis is a very important document. It defines the plant capacity, the turndown, the particular plant specific configuration. Let's say you have one train or you have two trains. Then accordingly the measuring units which are to be used in that particular project. Then the feedstock, product slates, feedstock slates, qualities. Then you have the plant design life categorization. Then the future planning, if it is there, like for example in a polymerization plant where you have, let's say, 2 reactors, you may have 3 more reactors to be planned in future. So whether the space has to be provided for that in the layout, whether the utilities need to be provided for that, all this has to be part of the process design basis. Then the storage capacities, the over design margins which have to be taken. For example, heat exchangers normally have 10% area excess in the area, and pumps you normally have 10% flow excess. Similar to that, the design standards to be used, the process control, manning, automation levels to be used. Then you have the meteorological data which is to be used for that particular project site. For example, the percent relative humidity defines your cooling tower configuration and the degree of approach in the cooling tower. So this is all part of the process design basis, which is the first document produced by the process engineer. Now after this process design basis, the next documents which are produced, for example, the actual simulation is carried out. Again, as I mentioned, simulation is again depending on the project. Many licensors do the simulation themselves and give the package in which the consultancy works. However, if simulation has to be done, it has to be done in a proper fashion. There are many simulating softwares. HYSYS is there, Aspen is there, Promax is there, Pro2 is there. It again depends which the client preference is, what the consultancy prefers. Once the simulation is done, from the simulation, the next documents which come out are the process flow diagrams, PFDs, and the heat and material balances. Now, a PFD is a very fundamental document. It basically contains all the major equipments, the major streams. You do not show pots and pans in a PFD. Plus, you do not show like drain lines, etc. in a PFD. The PFD, the main streams have fluid numbers. Each of these fluid numbers corresponds to a specific stream number, which is represented in the HNMB, heat and material balance. Similar to that, the operating pressure temperatures are defined in a PFD. Now from the PFD, the next documents which spring out are many, which ultimately go in the preparation of the P&ID. So from the PFD, you have, for example, the process safety flow diagram, or PSFS, process safety flow scheme, which is called. So in this, you have the ESDV valves, then you have the high, low interlocks are shown, then the safety relief valves are shown on particular equipment wherever they require. These documents are required ultimately in the P&ID, so that you don't, it's like a checklist, so that you don't miss out in the P&ID. And similar to the PSFS, you also have the material selection diagrams. These material selection diagrams are prepared based on the PFDs. You basically indicate on the PFD which line contains which material specification along with the corrosion allowance. These are made by the process engineer, of course, specialized in metallurgical field. Now, along with that, process engineer also makes an internal document called DPTT diagram, design pressure, design temperature diagram. This is made on the process flow diagram again, and it basically represents what are the operating pressure, operating temperature, and the design pressure, design temperature, which is again on the process design basis. Based on the process design basis, what is the DPTT categorization. So this document is very useful for preparing of the P&ID diagram as well as to the piping engineers. Now, a very important document which is also prepared by a process engineer is called a fluid list. So fluid list is a direct input to the piping discipline so that they can make the piping material specification and the valve material specifications. The fluid list contains each and every fluid with the definition of the fluid category, what is called, let's say flammability, or whether it is toxic. For example, a high pressure chlorine gas line. This is highly toxic in nature, so the piping gets an input that I need to plan a specific non-destructive testing, which means 100% radiography is planned for such a line which has high pressure chlorine gas. So this fluid list document also contains like type of valve. For example, you may have water line where you can recommend ball valve, gate valve, globe valve. You may have a steam line where you cannot recommend a ball valve. Ball valves are not normally used in steam service. So the piping then also takes this input to prepare the valve material specification. Now all these go into the making of the final document, which is the P&ID diagram, piping and instrumentation diagram. Now before the piping and instrumentation diagram, there is another document called the equipment list, which is also generated by process, which is a direct input from the PFD. The equipment list is generated. This equipment list contains many columns which are a direct input to the other disciplines involved. For example, you have the equipment tag number, equipment description, the quantity, whether it is 1 working, 1 standby, or 2 working, 1 standby, then the brief description, brief technical specifications of the equipment, as well as, for example, if it's a rotating item, whether that is going to have emergency power, whether it is having auto start, then whether it is run by a diesel engine or whether it is run by electric motor. These are all part of the equipment list, which is a very useful document for mechanical discipline to give input to electrical for the loads, so that the electrical then gets the load list. Now we talk about the P&ID diagram, which is a very fundamental diagram in process engineering. Now piping and instrumentation diagram contains each and every equipment. It contains each and every line which is there, the sizing of the line, the material specification of the line, whether the line is insulated, steam trace, whether the equipment has insulation, whether the equipment elevations are indicated, the slope of the lines are indicated. The P&ID incoming, outgoing arrows have to match exactly. These P&IDs are made in many softwares. For example, you can make it in AutoCAD. You can also use Smart Plant SP P&ID, what is called. SP P&ID is a little bit more cumbersome to make than AutoCAD, but it has its excellent advantages. For example, a P&ID generated in SP P&ID, you are ensured that there are no mistakes occurring. Like if an arrow goes out from one P&ID, you will have it coming out from the other P&ID exactly with the same conditions of DP, DT, OP, OT, without any error. In AutoCAD, these errors are possible. Nowadays, most clients ask for SP P&ID only. SP P&ID also has other advantages. Automatically, you get generated the line list, SPI list, which is special piping item list. Then you have the tie-in list also generated. So now P&ID, the first issue of P&ID is the IFR revision, which is issued for review. Here the P&ID is sized, the lines are sized based on velocity criteria. Because of the fast track nature of projects, it may not be possible to do the hydraulics before the P&ID issue. So normally velocities are used in the IFR issue. Subsequent to the client comments being received, the next revision is issued for approval. Nowadays, because again a fast track project, you may overrule the IFA and directly go to IFH, which is issued for HAZOP revision. Now, in the issued for HAZOP revision, it is good to ensure that the hydraulics are done, that the line sizes are frozen as much as possible. After the HAZOP is done, the P&ID is considered frozen and the IFD revision is issued, which is issued for design. Now, issued for design, by the time IFD is done, you have to ensure that all the line sizes and the nozzle sizes are formed up, equipments are sized. Once the IFD revision goes, after that any other changes come, if they come in the fundamental design, that is the management of change. So the IFD revision is considered a frozen revision. Only things which are left open is, for example, control valve sizes, PSV sizes, where you have some specific static mixer, for example, where you may not have received the vendor quotation, pump sizes, suction discharge. So these things are still left open, which are formed up once the orders are placed, the vendor inputs are received. After the IFD revision, the next stage is the IFC revision, which is issued for construction. Issued for construction revision should contain no holes. However, I have still seen projects nowadays, because of the tight schedule, a few minor holes are still there in IFC revision, but my personal preference is IFC revision should not have any holes. It is issued for construction. This is as far as the P&ID concerned. Now from the P&ID, there are many other documents which are generated, which are cause and effect diagram, CNE, what is called. Then you have the control narratives. A control narrative is nothing but you define in a layman language, like if the level of a vessel goes high, the outgoing control valve should open. This is a very simple way in which the control narrative is termed, so that the instrument engineer understands and plans his logic diagrams accordingly. Now, after the control narrative, in parallel in the engineering, you also have hydraulics being carried out, so that your control valve data is being formed up. These hydraulics, as I said, go into the line sizing. Before the IFD, the line sizing should be frozen. Now, equipment sizing also is carried out in parallel. In a fast track project, again, see, normal sequence is once the PNID is done, then the equipment PDS is released, so that your nozzle sizes, let's say you have a vessel, your inlet outlet nozzle sizes etc. are formed up from the PNID. However, because of the fast track project, a lot of experience has gone into that issuing of the equipment process data sheet in parallel to the PNIDs for long lead items. So afterwards the nozzles are formed up, and this helps in the saving of the schedule. So the process data sheet is also a very important activity which the process engineer plays. So along with the PNIDs, the PDS are issued. Process data sheet is done, for example, for all the equipments where the sizing is required, like you may have two-phase, three-phase separators where you have to do the sizing, nozzle sizes have to be formed up, then pumps where you have to specify the differential head of a centrifugal pump. So after the hydraulics, the pump process data sheet has to go out. Then the other important documents which are released after the process data sheet are the instrumentation process data sheet, what is called IPDS. So again, here long lead items are released first. For example, control valves, on-off valves, analyzers, these are long lead items. So the data is released to instrumentation for the IPDS first. Then follow the transmitters, level transmitters, pressure transmitters, flow transmitters, ultimately followed by the PG and TGs, which are local pressure gauges and temperature gauges. So this is as far as the IPDS is concerned. Now there are other documents which are also related to process engineering, like PSV sizing. So in the PSV sizing, once the PSV sizings are done, the governing cases are found out, the flare load summary is a document which is generated, so that the flare system can be sized, flare network and the flare package can be sized accordingly. Similarly, utility summary, effluent and emission summary, these are other documents, catalyst and chemical summary. Then you have other things like DCS graphics, which the process engineer also makes, so that the DCS graphics can be integrated by the DCS manufacturer. Then finally, in detail engineering, you make the alarm and trip summary, operating and maintenance manual, pre-commissioning manual. These are the documentation which a process engineer produces. There are many other activities which he does. For example, you may have the piping do the 3D model. So in the 3D model, a process engineer takes prime importance while making sure the piping etc. is done properly, and there are no gross mistakes, elevations are properly represented, all these things are taken care in the model. Then another important activity where the process participates is, although he is not responsible, LOSPE is responsible. For example, the safety studies. So you have HAZARD, NVAID, you have HAZOP study, SIL study, you have the QRA study, the RAM study. So all these things process engineer will participate in to ensure that the safety of the entire plant is not compromised in any way. I have covered all the documentation. This is very well represented in my chapter 29 in the book. And also I have enclosed a lot of blank templates. For example, line list blank template is there. Like that, many other blank templates are there. Please do visit the website www.chemicalprocessengineering.com, where the process engineer will find the handbook, very useful in his practical work every day. Please also like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.